Today we are tackling I think one of my biggest unhauls ever. I've let this build up, and I should say I also have had a couple of projects going that greatly facilitated unhauling because I was just trying to do I want to read this or not? It was a very bloodthirsty, cutthroat kind of approach to a TBR reading project. So with that being said, we have, I think, just about 50 books to get through. So enough of my yapping, let's get to getting. Broken these up into a number of different categories. So let's maybe start with the most benign in terms of nothing personal against the book that's being unhauled to increasingly personal against the book. So the most benign is probably these 3 entries of Monstrous. The reason these are getting unhauled is because can you see it? Sort of. Here, I just got the second big hardback bind up of issues 4, 5, and 6, or not issues, volumes 4, 5, and 6. So it's like there's the individual comics, then they get into a bind up that's numbered, and then they get into a compiled book. So I have the compiled book now, so I don't need The Chosen, which is number 4, War Child, which is number 5, or The Vow, which is number 6. A similar formatting based reason to unhaul. Now I did DNF some of these, but I'm not even going to get into that because even if I had loved these, they would be unlikely to stay in the collection. There's really only one mass market in this project where I was trying to get through my mass markets that ended up staying. So I would have had to really love these, so this isn't necessarily personal against the book for the most part. It's mostly just, you're a mass market, so you gotta go. These are the 2 bind-ups of the Donovan series from Nora Roberts. This is mildly personal. I DNF'd this because this, which was the London's best kept secret by Annabelle Bryant. I wish they'd kept the secret because everybody in this was bland. It's like we got married, one of us thinks it was from convenience, the other one was in love with the other person, which is a trope that I'm here for, but this one was bad. This was a fun one, Wyoming Cowboy Ranger by Nicole Helm. I don't really remember much about Beauty Tempts the Beast by Lorraine Heath. And then 2 more Nora Roberts bind-ups. This one had Mind Over Matter and Lawless. Oh yeah, I DNF'd both of these actually. Pretty much the only person I trust to do a Western, like a historical Western, is Beverly Jenkins in terms of romance tropes. And then Catch My Heart by Nora Roberts had Taming Natasha and Luring a Lady. That's right, these were 2 of the Stanislavski books. And then let's talk about the things I'm unhauling that I have read and did enjoy, but just not enough to hold on to it. I don't foresee myself rereading it. I don't foresee myself referencing a lot here on the channel. There's not someone in my life that I want to give it to necessarily, or I think it should just be back out in circulation. So, Josephine Tay brought Farrar. This is kind of, if you I think I did this as a read-alike title. If you like Daphne du Maurier, I think you might enjoy this particular one. I was hoping for more of a mystery, which I wouldn't quite say this is, but enjoyable, and we'll definitely read more from this author. Rizzio, this is another one where I was wanting this to be more of a mystery, but it's more just historical fiction centered around a killing. So this is set in the court of Mary, Queen of Scots. It's very short, so if you like the idea of historical fiction with murderousness in it, this could work for you, but not particularly impactful for me. The Hacienda was a big hit last year, and I had a good time in this. I think the more I talked about it, we did this for book club, for Blades and Bodice Ripper book club, the more we talked about it, the more I had critiques of it. But if you were just looking for fun haunted house horror in a Mexican plantation setting, heavily inspired by Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, definitely worth picking up, just not a favorite, and not one I feel the need to hold on to. After She Wrote Him by Sulari Gentle, I did not like this nearly as much as I love The Woman in the Library by this author, but I thought that this was experimental. Basically, you don't know which of these. It's hard to tell who is the author and who is the character, so it's like a book within a book, but it could be kind of read either way in terms of which storyline is the book and which storyline is the author. And it was an interesting experiment, but not a book I loved. But if you like experimental fiction or experimental mysteries, worth picking up. The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. This is probably my least, no, not even probably. This is my least favorite T. Kingfisher I've read so far, but I did really enjoy it. If you like creepy trees, Squirtle fantasy, horror, I don't know. This is an interesting book. I don't know that I've read a book that has quite this kind of creepiness to it. Like it feels like a distinct book. I don't know, it's not necessarily one that's like sticking out to me though as a favorite. And I love T. Kingfisher and want to spread the good word of T. Kingfisher. So I'm taking this to the used bookstore in hopes somebody else will pick this up and love it. Okay, 2 arcs I got that I enjoyed both of these. I gave both of these 4 stars. Blackwater Rising by Attica Locke. I'm gonna pass it along. And then Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan. I didn't hate this, but didn't love it. Okay, and then Bringing Down the Duke. I picked this up at McKay's when I thought that I might be continuing in this series. It's a good historical romance series, but not one that I found particularly memorable, and I've not found myself like recommending it or reaching for it, so I felt like it could go. Not All Dead White Men, Classics and Misogyny in the Digital Age by Donna Zuckerberg. This is by the sister of Mark Zuckerberg, which I think is an interesting angle. This was a interesting enough piece of nonfiction, kind of dealing with the classics or like kind of the Greek Roman ideas about women and gender and how that translates into contemporary understandings. I thought it was decently interesting and had some thoughtful things to mull on, but not memorable particularly or impactful. And I don't find myself recommending it to you guys that often, so I feel like it's time to pass it along. Okay, we got 2 other Blades and Bodice Ripper book club picks. So A Marvelous Light by Freya Marska was an interesting book that I enjoyed. Like this felt like fun, like it felt fun. This was a fun fantasy romance set in the Edwardian age, but I'm not going to continue in the series, and I have not thought about this book since we talked about it at the end of 2021. So if I've not thought about it in more than a year, and I'm not going to continue in the series, it feels like it can get passed along. And then The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. I did enjoy this when I read it, but again, I don't find myself thinking of it or referencing it or recommending it, so it just feels like it's probably time for it to move along. And then last, I did enjoy the ending of the Clue trilogy, the YA mystery thriller series by Diana Peterfront. I enjoyed both of these, but I definitely preferred the first book in the series, which was In the Hallway with a Knife, I think is the first one. It's campy, fun, murder mystery. I do really appreciate that this conclusion imitates what the movie does in terms of its ending, which I thought was really fun. But I'm just not going to ever reread that trilogy, and the one that I like the best, I'm just going to hold on to that to represent the trilogy as a whole if I'm ever recommending it. So yeah, I just don't think I need to hold on to books 2 and 3. Okay, moving into 5 books that I'm just not going to read, so it's a little more personal because I don't feel the need to hold on to these. If I want to read any of them, I think I could get them from the library, and I had this moment where I realized that I just don't think it's going to happen. So that's why they're leaving. So Angel Maker by Nick Harkaway. Nick Harkaway is an author I would like to try at some point. He writes sort of like weird sci-fi kind of books, and I think I could enjoy his stuff, but I've not picked this up. I've had it for several years. I think I can get most, if not all, of his books from the library. So if I want to try him at some point, I think that's probably what I'll do. The Purity Myth by Jessica Valenti. I picked this up for McKay's at some point. I just don't think I'm going to read this in physical form. If I ever read it, it'll be as audio. And I think that it's one of those books that is, I think, like a landmark in feminist thinking and development, or at least popular, like pop feminism. But from what I've gathered, it's kind of dated at this point, and I don't know that I would read this for like, I think I would read this as sort of almost like a piece of historiography at this point, or like a historical text in the development of popular feminism. But Death Below Stairs by Jennifer Ashley, I just realized that I don't know that I'm ready to commit to reading this series. I picked it up for McKay's for almost nothing, and I almost included this in the wrapped TBR project I have for 2023, but when I went to finish that up, I just realized that I actually don't necessarily feel the need to hold on to this. If I want to try the series, I'll get it from the library. Like a River Glorious is the follow-up, and actually, I just realized I should also probably unhaul Walk on Earth the Stranger, which gets us to 50 books. I think I was at 49, so I think this takes us to 50 books in this. I'm not going to continue the series. This is, and then Sarah Osborne's World, The Rise of Evangelical Christianity in Early America by Catherine Brekus. I bought this when I was in grad school with the full intention of reading it. It was like one that was highly being discussed in school at the time because it was still a relatively new release. I'm just never going to come back and read this, I don't think. I'm not that interested in it at this point in my life. And nothing against Sarah Osborne or her world. I just don't think it's going to happen, so time to move it along. Okay, we've officially entered its personal territory. So I've got ones I'm unhauling because I have finished them and did not like them, and I have ones I'm unhauling because I DNF them. And I'm not sure which of those is more personal. I think actively finishing the book and not liking it is probably more personal, so let's start with the DNFs. First of all, McGlue by Otessa Moshfegh. This was distasteful. And I'm usually pretty okay with characters I don't like or situations I don't like, but I just couldn't with this. I just couldn't. I read this for Weekend Ween, and in the vlog you can literally see my facial expressions and me just literally being like, no, I'm not doing this. So DNF this. Then I have a project going on, which I'm not sure if you guys will have seen by the time this goes up or not. I think you will have, but basically I'm doing a brutal version of Try a Chapter with my backlog of Book of the Month Club picks. I have a whole pile of them that I'm DNFing as a part of that. So, all of these I am DNFing. So we've got Upgrade by Blake Crouch, Bittersweet by Susan Cain. This one has a funny story, which you'll have to watch the vlog to see. A History of Wild Places by Shay Earnshaw. The Collective by Allison Gaynor, I think. The Dating Plan by Sarah Desai. And True Biz by Sarah Norvik. All of these I am DNFing and unhauling as a part of that video. And then this one is also a DNF, but let's group it with the most extremely personal of these unhauls when we get there. Okay, so now we're into books that I read and do not have warm feelings towards. Some of these very like icy cold feelings towards, and some of these are just lukewarm. These Toxic Things by Rachel Halsell Hall. I like her ideas and her premises, but so far I've not liked either of the books I've read from her. And I think I may have to do a third time's a charm test with her because I do really like the ideas of her books. But this one, gosh, the heroine was just insufferable and the twists were not giving what I wanted them to. So for me, not for me. Let's just put it that way. Then I enjoyed The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. She's probably my favorite mystery thriller author in YA, but I did not enjoy The Hawthorne Legacy or Final Gambit. And it's because it went much more in the love triangle route than her previous series have. And I didn't enjoy either of the romantic options. The mysteries were fine, but ultimately not my favorite. I don't know. I just not my favorite. I'll keep and remember fondly The Inheritance Games, but I don't need either of these two. Then the Pallbearers Club. I'm sad because and therefore this was disappointing and I don't want to hold on to it. This, I don't remember a ton about at this point, but I remember not liking it. That's really the only impression I have. I think I gave this 2 stars. It's about like a witch and a coworker she turned into a cat who's now like an anthropomorphized cat, and I think they're investigating a mystery about something that happened to a different witch in her coven. That sounds right. It's like urban fantasy, and I think it's meant to be satire slash like social commentary. And I don't think it was very effective at that. The Christmas Murder Game was just really flat. I am really super sad that this one didn't work out because this is kind of an isolated closed circle thriller. It has a game for an inheritance, which has definitely been a big trend over the last few years. And one that I think the Family Game by Catherine Steadman is probably the most successful version of that trope that I've seen in books. Probably. But I like the idea of it, I think, more than I often like the execution. This, I think, would make a really good screenplay, but did not make a good book. It was way too flat in terms of the characters and kind of development. So, yeah, disappointing. The Keeper of Night. Okay, and then the most personal ones of these. Daisy Darker. I read and hated Rock, Paper, Scissors. I DNF'd after I was not enjoying the writing and after I flipped to the end and realized I also hated the ending in this. Not as much as I hated the ending in this, but I hated both of these endings. Alice Feeney is not for me. That's what we have decided. No thank you. This is the most personal of these. Like, if I was one of my cats, I would be like kicking the litter over it because I don't like it. Glad other people do, but it's not for me. Okay. And I think those are all the books that I'm unhauling. Let me know what you thought about any of the books I mentioned, if there's any that you're interested in, if there's any that you are hoping you find if you go to the Nashville McKays, because it sounds good to you. Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I think that will do it for me. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below, and I think that will do it. I hope you're having an absolutely lovely day today, and I will just talk to you soon.